Well, today I'll be speaking to my good friend AZpinoy. Welcome, AZ.
Thank you for having me here.
Oh,
I appreciate I appreciate the invite,
thank you,
especially
thank
with
you,
all the wonderful guests that you've had already.
thank you. I've been when I was really sitting down to figure out who I wanted to talk to. Your name was one of the ones that popped into my head first because you were actually the first person that I followed after I started streaming Lego regularly. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if
Oh
I ever
wow!
told you that. My
No,
story
I
is
didn't know that.
Yeah, my story as it goes is I followed Brick and Nick and Set to
Mhm.
Build like a couple years ago. It's kind of oh, that's really cool. They build Lego. I've not really seen that before. That's really awesome. And since then, I would go in, catch a stream once in a while. I'm like, that's really cool. And they still have inspired me to do that today. But when I decided to start streaming Lego, I kind of did the thing I would never recommend to other streamers, which is usually if you anticipate streaming something on Twitch and there's already kind of a space for it, maybe check it out, see who's doing it already.
Uh-huh.
Figure. I did not do that because in my head I was like, oh, I've seen Set to Build, I've seen Brick and Nick, and so I didn't. I think to go, oh wow, it's been a couple years. Maybe I should see what other people are doing too. And
Mm.
then I streamed, and then I rated into you, and I followed you. You were the first person that I followed since I started streaming Lego regularly.
And it's crazy. Like I think we've talked about it before, right? With how um, like that first person that you've encountered in
Mm-hmm.
terms of brick building
Mm-hmm.
or the Lego streams and stuff like that. Because I mean, I was in the same boat. I mean,
Yeah.
when I knew about Twitch, the first time I got exposed to Twitch was way back in 2014
Mm-hmm.
because of a game called Destiny,
Oh, a little
right?
game called
And
Destiny.
a little game called Destiny, and it's funny thinking about it. It's 8 years old,
Mm.
even though people still complain about it. It's an 8-year-old game. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked again with a different thing. But it was one of those things. I did not know that such a thing existed.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew about was YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
and then Destiny just kind of opened that door, and I ran into a streamer called Gothalion, King Gothalion,
Yeah.
who is not on Twitch anymore. Um, but I still follow him outside of Twitch. But it was kind of like a one thing after another from there. You follow you. It's one of those things where you're like stuck in one game and kind of looking at who else streams those games,
Yeah.
right? And then when you find a new game, you're like, does somebody stream this game? And
Mm.
then that leads to another row of streamers that happened to me. Yes, in Fortnite. Yes, I played Fortnite. you know, going into that rabbit hole of streamers, and then when I started to decide to do streaming, um, it was streaming those games.
Yeah.
It was because I had a PC that I built for Destiny, which was going into uh, transitioning to PC.
Mm.
So I was like, all right, let me build the rig and try this streaming thing. Um, but it wasn't until I found uh, a Lego Technic charger, which is right there on the shelves of Target, that I was like, oh, maybe this is good content, or try this for content.
Yeah.
And just like you said, I did not go into that road to where looking into,
Yeah.
does somebody else do this?
Yeah.
When I did that for the games, right?
Exactly.
I did that for the games thing, but I didn't do it for this. So
And then you just started streaming Lego.
yeah, and that's when I just started streaming Lego. And um, to be honest, I kept saying Fred was the one that opened the door to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? In terms of brick building, which he was. But the first uh, Lego brick builder streamer that I ran into was IDK Alaska, because
Okay.
one of my brother's girlfriend, who is also streaming, recommended that, hey, we should raid this person since you were building Lego.
Hmm.
Maybe we should raid this Lego streamer. So I raided into her channel, but it wasn't like, I think a few weeks later to when, or a week later when this offline follow appeared, and it was Mr. Pan-Fried Noodle, and I was laughing at the name because I
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's pan-fried noodle,
Yeah.
thinking of Asian cuisines and stuff like that. So I just happened to click on his name and followed him, and I think you said that story too. You ran into that stream and
Hmm.
got introduced to the noodle dance right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like a party right off the bat,
Yeah.
and that's what introduced me into the brick building community, in terms of not even knowing that there was a brick building community.
Right.
And I was probably a good two sets in terms of trying to stream some kind of Lego content.
Right.
And then that's when I found out about the other community members out there, like Zach. I remember Zach's first comment was after Fred said, "Oh, sometimes AZ streams with his daughters building Lego,"
Yeah.
and at that time he was also building Lego with little Rutledge, and it was like that commonality that kind of got me introduced to Zach and the other members out there.
That's a great story. It's funny when we all look at like our, I would say, kind of our initial like stories of getting
Hmm.
into Lego, or Lego on Twitch rather, and some of the same names start to pop up, which really indicates a couple of things to me. And it's really fun that we both actually kind of share this. I mean, you're the first person I rated, and I think between both you and Fred, that is pretty much what opened the doors to the rest of the community for me.
Hmm.
And it's funny because I've heard a couple other people say the same thing. Your name has come up, Fred's name has come up. I've heard local brick shop's name come up a couple times of like, this is the person who got me into this sub community of Twitch. And
And the
yeah.
cool thing about it too is now you're seeing that with the other new members of the community,
Hmm.
right? When you're hanging out in the other streams, and um, some of their new followers follow you, and they say,
Hmm.
"Oh yeah, I found out about you through Profit. I found out about you through
Yeah.
Local."
Yeah.
Right? It's that string that's
Yeah.
just kind of extending now with the brick building community.
Yeah. It's that thread that starts to connect us all. I made a
Mhm.
joke in Ace's episode about Fred, where if you were to take all the streamers, that kind of
Oh yeah.
started within that window
Uh,
of time, maybe a 6 to 9 month period of time, last year, like you could put us all on a cork board and connect us all with a string, and at the center would be Panfred Nudo, and like near the
uh-huh.
center would be a couple other names like Brick and Nick, April B, and so on and so forth. And it's really cool to see like the almost the
The
magnitude,
expansion.
yeah,
Yeah.
like how much bigger it's gotten in that
Hmm.
time.
And
When
now
you
it's a funny thing too, 'cause like, right, when you say it's growing,
Yeah.
it's like you make joke of it in your in the streams. Like when I'm streaming, I'll say, I'd like to shout everybody out here, but it's everybody's just click on everybody's name, because more likely
Yeah.
than not, everybody's streaming some kind of Lego content, or
Yeah.
or streaming something,
Yeah.
right?
I've had to say that myself too, I've found. And sitting in some brick building streams, like I hear that too, where it's like just click on everyone's name, because you probably have like a 90% chance that they stream Lego.
Uh-huh.
But when you were streaming Destiny, I guess my question is, how long did it take between when you started streaming Destiny to when you started streaming Lego?
Like really getting into the Lego content. I guess when I attempted to stream Destiny or Fortnite, or Call of Duty. I streamed some of Call of Duty too at that time. It was really, to be honest, it wasn't. It was just more of a pastime thing. It was like, okay, after a hard days of work, sit down, decompress, and then I found out that my PC at that time can somewhat stream something. So I started streaming, but then I stopped because of work. Work just kind of got a little crazy, busy, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until around 2 years ago when my brother and his girlfriend, who both stream on Twitch, and at that time have gotten affiliate status, they were like, "Hey, we know you've streamed before. Maybe you should try it again. Just it's almost like you should." They just kept pushing us like you just need to try it. You're having fun with the games and
Yeah.
interacting with us. Maybe you can do it too. And then that's when I started going live again
Mm-hmm.
in terms of Destiny and Fortnite. And like I said, it wasn't until we were walking around. I still remember it was a Target and saw the the thing that caught my attention was, I mean, I'm a big Fast and the Furious fan, as you've probably
Yeah,
heard or
yeah,
seen in
yeah.
the channel. And here, there it was. It was a Dodge Challenger Fast and the Furious Lego
Yeah.
version of it. And and to be honest, at that time I wasn't familiar about the Technic sets
Right.
and how many different themes there were.
Yeah.
And then I picked it up and decided maybe this is good content, and that, that was my excuse to my wife actually to to pick up the set.
It's good
And
content.
yeah, it's good content. And then next thing you know, it was just one thing after another. You pick up one set, you finish that,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, huh, maybe I can just keep going with this. I didn't have a backlog at that time, so it was just like, okay, what's the next Technic set? What other Technic sets are there?
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, then after that, it was like the Ducati, and as you can see, a lot of the Lego sets that I've built since then are either Technic or some kind of vehicle related set.
Right. What about Technic? Uh, do you enjoy so much? I guess is compared to like other Lego,
The pins, no.
right? That blue
I know
pin,
that blue pin. I know not everybody's fond of Technic,
right?
uh, but that's the nice thing with the Lego sets, right? Is there's so many different themes that you can go through. But the thing that kind of attracts me more to the Technic sets is um, I love cars, right? I'm not no mechanic or anything like that, but I just love cars. I just admire them so much that when you get to build these cars with the Technic sets, it's almost like you're the way they approach it too, on these sets is as if you're building your own kit car, right? You start off, for those of you who haven't built a Technic set yet, but you start off literally, depending on the set, you start off on a chassis, or you start off on the transmission with the little gears, and then you build it up from there, right? And the next thing you know, you have this functioning car, right? I know it's not remote control. There's no motors. There's no actual automated motors on it or anything
Right,
like
right.
that. But with sometimes I'll be just sitting there looking at the suspension, and I was like, oh look, you can compress you can compress this part, and it's a Lego piece,
Right.
right?
It's that action, right, where you can
Yeah.
make like with the gears, and you can,
Hmm.
have things turn and uh, interact, and like the pistons and things like that.
Hmm. And just how they achieve it with those types of pieces. And we joke about the pins, right? The pins
Right.
connecting everything, and the beams kind of offering support on it.
Right.
And and you just kind of starting off with this with those pieces and kind of wondering how is this going to look like a Dodge Charger, right? Eventually, or like a Porsche 911. The next
Yeah.
thing you know, there it is. Yeah, a lot of those stuff get a lot of those stuff gets covered,
Hmm.
but it's the experience and the feeling of, oh look, I made a car out of Lego,
Right.
right?
And so the Dodger was your first Technic set, right?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was actually my first, that Dodge Charger was my first Lego set in terms of, as people would say, coming out of the dark ages
Hmm.
of Lego.
Hmm.
Um, I've built some Lego before then, and come to think of it, that would have been more than 10 years ago. 10 years even before that, before thinking of the last set I built before that, which
Right.
was the XO4 series. And that's the other thing that kind of attracts my attention is any mech type. Any
Yo.
mech type, robot type is, I mean, it's not Lego, but you can see my
Yeah.
the other interest there, the Gundams.
The
But
Gundam.
in terms of other Lego sets or Lego themes, that's
Hmm.
those are the things that kind of attract my attention too. Is like the mech stuff. But
Hmm.
that was really one of the first sets that got me into Lego. And
Yeah.
then just like everybody else, you had that moment of, okay, you don't build any sets or your dark ages, and then
Yeah.
something just brings you back.
Yeah. Yeah. Mechs, you say. Mechs are probably, if I were to choose a thing within the Lego, all the different types of themes and sets that they have, I think mech, like I have a very soft spot for mecha, like robots. Um, I have quite a few of them, and actually, this is the
Uh,
month here this we're now in March as of this recording, and it's
which is
more
crazy.
Amor's March Mecha Mandus Mania, mother effers. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm gonna rely on Fred to
To
he
think
had
of
a he had
a
a really good
clever.
he had a really good one. He had a really good one, and I'll be building mechs for like this month. But that said, I share that with you. I love robots. I love mechs. It's funny that I haven't been into like Gundam, because I
Not
feel
yet.
like I know, right? It feels like something I should have done a long time ago. And
Mhm.
I've had friends be like, "Why haven't you touched it?" I was like, "Well, it was in a way it was like Lego in that I was very scared of it because of the hobby that it has even become now, right? Like I was afraid of getting so into it. And I knew that would happen. That's what happened.
And
And
that's what happens with any hobby, right?
that's what
It's like
happens
that
with any
rabbit
hobby.
hole.
And so I have, I've for years I've had a backlog of video games, right? And
Mhm.
it's a mix of physical and digital. So it's kind of obfuscates how many games that I own, because it's probably in the hundreds that I have yet to finish. And sure enough, Lego is kind of going down that path too. But I'm trying to be, because space is an issue. I've been trying to be more
Oh
mindful
yeah.
of that. But I have a backlog, and now I'm afraid of getting into Gundam, which is something else that you do and you've done on stream. How has that been for you, and what kind of brought that kind of in the forefront of your content as well?
So the you're talking about you mentioned backlog,
Yeah.
and that kind of actually kind of what pushed that
Mm.
into mixing it into the fold. And when I was talking about like picking up the a Lego set from a while back, a few years after that, actually, I got back into Gundams and back into a small Lego set, actually, an Ecto One, the small Ecto One set that I picked up from a few years ago. But
Hmm.
then when I was really into Gundam back then, that was about 7 years ago. My brother got me uh, that set right there. That's hanging. That's built now.
Yeah.
got me that set 7 years ago, but I did not I did not open it and build it until a couple of months ago.
Oh
So
my
it was
god.
one of those things. It was like the kits were kind of stacking up,
Mm.
and then when we were talking about content creation, you're like, okay, um, yeah, we can go stick with Lego and stuff like that. And I was like, I think I need a little bit of a break after all the big Lego sets that we've built. And I was like, maybe I can dabble on mixing in some Gunpla.
Mm.
And that's when Gunpla Sundays kind of got mixed in.
Mm.
And the funny thing is, we're we're talking about Lego streamers, Lego streaming and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you when you look at it, when you mention one another type of hobby or another, more than likely someone in that stream or someone in that community has also been into that hobby or is into that hobby.
Right.
So, and that was the cool thing about it is once I introduced that, people people were actually curious about it. You know, for those who haven't um, built one, but there were also some people in the community who's actually built one, and then you find out they have like this extensive collection of Gundam model kits,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what um, generally kind of uh, has worked with integrating that in the stream is just finding out other people who enjoy the hobby,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then
Mm-hmm.
other people who want to know about the hobby and just kind of watch you snip plastic and then snap them on together, and then next thing you know, you have another mech
Yeah.
that's hanging in the background. So,
Yeah. You've tempted me so many times when it comes to Gunpla. I was
well,
like,
we're all enablers of something,
I know,
right?
right?
Like Mr. Panfred Doodoo who enables a lot of people with Lego, and now now you're seeing Jang who's actually getting people enabled into Gundam
Yeah,
kits, right?
Jane, I wish there was a way to know how many people he's probably inspired or gotten into Gunpla. Like, I really want to know.
Oh, I was there when he was streaming his first Gunpla, when
Yeah.
he was getting into it. It was
Yeah.
what you call an entry grade, which is a starter kit, and he kept talking and talking, hyping it up. That some of the viewers actually went during the stream to go to Target and pick one up,
Oh my gosh.
and they were like, "Yep, I got one."
I caught part of that and I said it in chat. I was like, "Man, I don't think I can watch this right now." I think I said something to the tune of like, I'm getting super tempted, so I'm gonna go or
Mhm.
something like that. So like I left him up, but I muted the stream and like opened another tab just so I wouldn't be tempted because yeah, man, robots are cool. I love that sort of thing. And getting to put something together, right? Like,
Mhm.
not unlike Lego, not unlike other kinds of crafts like that. Dude, you guys tempt me all the time. I'm just saying that
And it's to
you're
be honest, it's a nice, like I said, it's a nice break in between the Lego sets too, right?
yeah,
Especially if you've been building like some kind of big set,
yeah,
so you don't get tired of it per se, in
yeah,
terms of just doing the same set over and over.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's been a nice addition to the stream, and I'm pretty sure my wife is appreciating it because I'm knocking the backlog
There
down.
you
And
go.
although you were talking about space, although that's the thing, it's like
Space is tough.
space is stuff,
Yeah,
and
man.
if and for those of you who've noticed who've watched my stream, the bed is not here anymore.
Yeah.
And speaking of space, this is actually our master's bedroom.
So you took it over with
So I
with your
basically
hobbies.
took it over. I always say, hey, it was my wife's idea, so I can't say that's
So it's
the
okay.
so it's
I'm just
okay.
kidding.
Yeah, she was actually that brought up the idea, and we like that same night we dismantled the bed and
Wow.
moved it to another room, and yeah,
I don't think I'll
That's
get.
the space solution.
I don't know if I'll get to that point. I don't think I not for lack of trying. Rather, I mean, I don't think that it happened for me, and I don't think I want that to happen because then I'd be like, I'd feel bad. But with I mean, with that said, so you've got a couple different things going on in your channel. If
Mhm.
you were to like describe to someone brand new to your channel or someone who's never been there before what you and your community and your Twitch channel are about, how would you describe that?
That's how would I describe the channel? It would be um everyone trying to break my stream
Mm.
at some time. No, it's you know, it's funny because it's kind of gotten that vibe in terms of, okay, how can we break how can we break AZ's stream,
Yeah.
right? And it's almost like a challenge to the community in
Right.
terms of, okay, how long or how can we break it?
Hmm.
But it started off really just with incorporating redeems,
The channel point
the
redeems and all
channel
that.
point redeems, and it's I was just thinking, okay, maybe I can incorporate something to where so people are just not. It's almost like when you look at the uh some of the uh not in the brick building community, but
Uh-huh.
you've seen it on the other streams, um in the other gaming communities where, yeah, there's somebody we're watching somebody play a game, but it's chat interacting and entertaining themselves,
Hmm.
right? So
Right.
I had that idea of like, okay, while I'm building something, what can I incorporate in terms of chat kind of entertaining themselves while they watch me
Hmm.
build something? So there's some kind of interactivity
Right.
there, because uh I don't have the voice of Mr. Fred Velvet who can just kind of serenade people
Yeah.
the whole stream.
Yeah.
So that was my thought, and then that's when I got into the rabbit hole of, okay, what does YouTube have to say with this? And that's when I encountered Nutty,
Yep.
uh, who introduced me in terms of, okay, how to make your stream more interactive,
Hmm.
right? And we started with little transitions here and there in terms of, hey, you can scramble my screen
Hmm.
for a couple channel points. You can make my camera rotate, like, and putting the little Star Fox thing of do the barrel roll,
I love that one.
right?
Yeah.
Do the barrel roll thing. And then it just kind of evolved into, okay, let's adding more bots.
Yeah.
And now the snap filter thing and all that stuff. And to be honest, people nicknamed it borking, let's bork the stream. But that's where you actually kind of have fun with it too, to where when you're planning this stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's what people don't see is when you're planning, there's a little bit of kind of planning in that in terms of organized chaos, in terms of what can you layer with those stuff. So when people try to quote unquote break it, what funny stuff can come,
What kind of
can go about it.
emergent
Yeah.
behavior will come from
Hmm.
combining these different alerts and redemptions?
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
that's what happens where the snap filters get stuck, and then there's another redeem going on, and chaos, or chachos, as Mrs. Prophet would say,
Hmm.
chaos ensues. But
Yeah.
then that usually happens. It's kind of ebb and flow through the stream, right?
Hmm.
It will happen, but then there's moments of kind of quietness, and then we kind of
Calm.
get to talking about other stuff, and then
Yeah.
it's a nice, we're talking about breaking sets, but it's a nice kind of break within the session too,
Hmm.
right? You have the chaos, then you have the calmness, and then a little bit of chaos here and there again.
Yeah. I think it's pretty incredible the sheer amount of tech that drives your stream.
Hmm.
You use a number of different methods that, for those that haven't been to AZ's stream, he touched on like the snap filters. So like you can use snap filters and actually trigger them on AZ's camera, and you have like within just that, even just that method has a bunch of sub things that you could there's a bunch of different things you can do within that. But then you
Mm-hmm.
have more traditional video triggers, as well as just point redemptions that, like you said, do all these different things to your scene. When you look at it, and especially for those that aren't really familiar with the back end of how all that works, there's actually a very big amount of like there's a lot going on under the hood there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a combination of a lot of different technologies that I think seem pretty seamless, which is I mean, using the techniques that you've learned from Nutty and using some stuff that you've seen and figured out over time. How has that changed for you? Because I mean, you said you've been adding on. Where do you see that from when you started doing that to where you are now, and where do you anticipate going with that kind of tech in the future?
Well, in terms of that, it kind of it it kind of mentioned how it kind of evolved from one thing to another,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about this, oh, let's make the scene switch around for a little bit, and then now you get into the snap filters, and now you kind of want to push it further because of the software that's available for you to do that. Like you were talking about the different technologies out there. You're talking
Yeah.
about StreamerBot, and I've mentioned it, you've mentioned it, other
Mm-hmm.
streamers have mentioned it, and other streamers have kind of adapted to it too,
Yeah.
because it's almost intimidating because you've when you start with it, especially if you've dedicated so much time on whatever
Mm-hmm.
streaming um, software you're using, like Streamlabs, you've dedicated time to that already and moving it to StreamerBot, but then you come to find out, oh, how technically how easy it was to
Mm-hmm.
do a simple trigger, and how you can use one thing to just use that
Mm-hmm.
to do everything for your stream,
Yeah.
and to the point to where you dabble. I'm not I don't know anything about
Right. Right.
video
Right.
editing, right? But
Right.
then technically in StreamerBot, you can do the same thing. If you don't know anything about video editing, you can mash together a few videos into one as if it was video edited,
Yeah.
just using that tool,
Yeah.
right? And then that's kind of what wants you to kind of make it or kind of push it further. All right,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do now? What can I
Yeah.
what can I um, what can I experiment with in terms of in now mixing this video here with interacting with whatever, like with your camera or something else
Mm-hmm.
that hopefully kind of entertain the people who are watching you. And that's kind of where I'm kind of looking into now, is like, okay, what else can you
What
what
else
else
can?
is there?
Yeah.
And of course, but then again, that's when you find out, okay, I have on the hardware side, you have
Right.
you have limitations there too. And
Right.
we've talked about it, especially with OBS right now and what's going on. It's we kind of dabbled in, we kind of talked about organized chaos, right? In terms of making that work in your stream,
Yeah.
and that's fun and all, but then when it's other situations that are working at the unexpected situations that work your stream,
Mm-hmm.
like in particular this recent update with OBS, that's when it's kind of uh, um, when it doesn't become fun, or kind of when frustration gets kind of sets in, because like you said, you have a lot of these things that you're integrating and working hard on
Mm-hmm.
on behind the scenes, and then you see it not working because of it's something that's outside your control,
Mm-hmm.
really, or something you can't fix per se, right, on your end. So, but yeah, in terms of where it will go on from there, it's just trying to see, you know I mentioned Nutty. There's other tutorials, streamers that do tutorials out there like Andy Lippy and um, the gaming careers. But it's one of those things they give you the idea of how it
Right.
works, and then you kind of
And you
you
run with
take it
it.
along from there, and you run with it,
Mm-hmm.
and how you can integrate it to your channel, and
Mm-hmm.
how it would work in your channel.
Do you have things that you're working on right now that you haven't really shared with your community?
Um, there are some ideas, but then time is your time
Yeah.
kind of factors in,
Right.
right? Where um, you have to balance in terms of dedicating time off the stream, on the stream, and then also
Mm-hmm.
balancing it with the family
Yeah.
stuff. I saw Teletubbies in the chat, and yeah, we were we were having a Teletubbies discussion with on Profit stream last night, and that might pop up.
Oh my gosh.
That might pop
I'm
up on
sure
stream.
we'll see it.
Uh,
I'm sure we'll
but
see it.
it's those little stuff that kind of you think about too while you're having
Yeah.
uh just discussions with everybody, with chat, with friends, and
Mm-hmm.
you know what comes about from the banter of things, and
Yeah.
that's what kind of where your ideas come from or pops up. But then, like I mentioned, it's just a matter of time and having literally just having time to work on it.
Yeah.
Because when I'm not streaming, I try to work on the stream, but then again, you like I said, you try to spend time with your you
You try to
gotta
yeah.
balance time with family too.
Well, let's talk about that then. With cuz you're a family man. You have, wife and children. How do you balance that against trying to manage and build a community and figure out what to do with your content and your channel? What's that like for you?
Busy. Just it. But
Yeah.
but it's I'm very thankful for a very patient, loving, and helpful wife.
Right.
And no, she's not watching, so I'm just that's all that's all truth out there. No, she's AZpinoy, you've probably seen her pop up on my stream or the
Right.
other streams out there. She's not she's not big on watching streams or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, but she does a lot in terms of uh, a lot of the other stuff that's going on with the family, like when I'm streaming and taking care of the kids and stuff like that. But the other thing is too the thing that helps too is my two my first two children are older,
Mhm.
so that kind of helps out in terms of they do their own thing,
Right.
right? They're teenagers now, and yes, I have a my oldest will be graduating high school, which is kind of makes me even feel older. But a lot of the balancing comes now with my two younger children,
Right.
and just when I'm not streaming, you go in and to do the other things like the dad stuff, doing the
Yeah.
homework and stuff like that. And then when
Yeah.
I'm streaming, AZpinoy is the one that's kind of
Yeah.
jumping in there, helping out the homework, getting them set,
Mm.
and yeah, that's
I c-
it's just a lot of a lot of give and take in
yeah.
terms of she's seen how much fun I've
Yeah.
had in terms of streaming.
Yeah.
And sometimes she'll take a peek and kind of look in terms of, hey, can you quiet down because you're like laughing too loud,
I've
or
had that happen
or
too.
or, or, or having a riot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, she's seen me quote unquote having fun with it, and then next thing you know, that's why we're talking about the bed situation, right? She was like, nope, you
Right.
need more space. She's the and I'm not kidding. She's the one that kind of goes in here and sometimes would think about your room's a mess. We got to do this. We got to break it down. We got to put shelves here.
Yeah, she was the
And
catalyst for the shelving. I remember
yeah,
you
yeah, she
mentioning
was the
that.
one who was like, "Hey, you can't have the Lego stuff hanging around here. You got to show it off. All right, let's put some shelves out there." Or sometimes she'll be at the mall or at Target or Walmart. Next thing you know, my phone's blowing up in terms of,
Yeah.
"Do you have this already? Do you have this already? Do you have this already?" Even though at the same time she's like, "You have too much stuff already." But then she'll just kind of keep sending me pictures. It's like, "Oh, do you have this and that?" So
Yeah. That's great. One thing that I think would be valuable is to ask whether you're a streamer who's been at this for a while or getting started. What would you recommend to someone when it comes to like balancing a family and a job against content creation as someone who does it themselves?
it's let's see. I would say making sure everybody's kind of um I would say everybody's kind of like on the same page where um
Right.
uh especially with your with your significant other, right?
Yeah,
In terms
definitely.
of basically talking to them, what are you doing? Like what is it that you're trying to achieve with this,
Yeah.
with streaming?
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you just got to make them understand that um what's going on the streams, in terms of it's not just you and the camera, it's actually you and other people that
Mhm.
are talking to each other. It's not just you building Lego or building something or doing something in other people, or in doing something like playing a game or anything like that, that you're actually
Right.
trying to um, establish a community and talking to those members of the community.
Mhm.
And but yeah, and communication, just like it's almost like I'm giving marriage advice. But no, but seriously, it's like communication is key. And with the kids,
Yeah.
I mean, some of the community members have seen my kids kind of pop up in chat, or
Yeah.
sometimes see what it's almost like you can make that as another way for you to spend time with them.
Right.
Like they the funny thing is they have their own Lego backlog now because of what I'm
Because of what you're
doing.
doing? Yeah.
And my wife is like, "Oh my gosh, now we have to make space for their Lego stuff too."
In addition to
Yeah,
yours.
in addition to mine. But
Yeah.
then, that's sometimes how I've integrated that into the channel, in terms of, "Hey, do you want to build Lego with dad?" Even though when they're here, how kids' attention spans are. Even
Yeah.
though they're here for 10 minutes, it's like, "Hey," they'll have that, they'll say, "Oh," sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, can I stream with you, dad, on this date?" Or
Oh,
or
that's cool.
you know, but yeah, it's just having that communication with your spouse, or your significant other, in terms of
Right.
what you're trying to achieve and what you're doing.
Yeah. I think that's really important. The balance of, life and content creation is a pretty massive undertaking, especially if you already have a full-time job on top of
Mhm.
that. And I would love to underscore the fact that you got to be on the same page as your partner, right?
Mhm.
Like I have kids, I'm married as well. My partner, she has been nothing but supportive, but I know that if it was a problem, or I know that if it became an issue, like the time put into into the whole time on stream or the work that goes into it. It would be a discussion. It would be me trying to figure out how to make that work, because I think a lot of people who jump into content creation or just streaming in particular, they don't realize the kind of commitment it becomes,
Hmm.
right? Or like
Exactly.
the time, like, I don't want to say time sink, but it's a commitment, right? And at that point, especially if you really enjoy it and you really want to build a community, and or you want to go full time, like all those layers of it,
Hmm.
even just wanting to build a good community, like, which is what I would consider like the entry level of the of building a channel, there needs to be understanding with the people in your life that it could impact, because most of the time you end up putting in, like, how many hours do you stream a week?
Oh, me. I
Yeah.
mean, and that's the thing too. This the how many hours I stream in a week kind of it varies, right? Because you talked about
Yeah.
a full-time job. I mean,
Yep.
I have a full-time job, but
Mm-hmm.
it's sometimes people wonder, wait, you work a banker's hours as a nurse, but then again, it's because I work in an outpatient clinic.
Right.
But when I stream, depends on my schedule at work
Mm-hmm.
because at my work, yeah, it's banker's hours, but we flex our times depending on who's needed where and stuff like that. So when I get out, quote unquote, early,
Mm-hmm.
I take advantage of that, and that's when I try to stream. And then
Yeah.
the weekends I reserve for like the Fridays and Saturdays. My wife has worked it out to where Fridays and Saturdays are like our quote unquote family time.
Mm-hmm.
If there's nothing going uh, on during our family, other things that we have going on, I'll try to squeeze in a stream on a Friday. But yeah, it's um I I am seeing Scotty say, it's in terms of being kind of blind to the the stuff that happens in the background,
Yeah.
right? To make a stream work.
It's
Or even
huge.
not even a stream, kind of like when I actually have a friend of mine who built my keyboard, who's
Mm.
big in the keyboard scene and has taken off from Instagram, right? He
Right.
built his community through Instagram and then integrated that to Twitch to where he's basically quit the Twitch side and kind of backed off on the Instagram side because
Mm-hmm.
he's a full-time nurse too, right? And he's actually uh, at a higher position than me, but it's because that content creation side was he said he's turning into a job, but then
Yeah.
it said it is.
Yeah.
It's the stuff to prepare for it, right? You build the keyboard, you take pictures of it on the background so you can actually show it off or kind of post it on Instagram. That's the stuff that goes into the thought of the post,
Right.
and it's all that stuff that happens in the background, and you try to balance everything, just balance everything.
Yeah, it's one big, like, prioritization,
Hmm.
balance, communication, especially when other people are involved.
Hmm.
It's
And you try to, like I said, you just try to kind of basically take advantage of those quote unquote holes
mm,
in the time during your day
mm-hmm.
when you're not at work. Okay, there's this little half hour here.
You have a
What
little
can I
bit.
do?
What can I do with that time?
What can I do? But then again, there's times where you're like, okay, I need a break from everything,
Yeah.
and you just want to sit down and actually use your computer for or your PC for what you intentionally built it for, which is for gaming,
Yeah.
or build a random set. And why you picked up a Lego kit or a Gundam kit for
Right.
was as a pastime,
Yeah.
right?
I tou-
Sometimes that gets lost in that too.
I touched on this with Brian in a past episode. Is like, at what at what point is something for you, and at what
Hmm.
point is it for the content? I mean, obviously it can be both. It should be both, but sometimes there's kind of that layer of like, I just want to do this for me, right? I don't. need a camera on. I don't need to give commentary on what I'm doing in real time or answering questions, because as much as we love doing this, I think there's kind of that space that we still have to make to still enjoy things for ourselves. And I would venture a guess because I guess I know that my instincts are not unlike most content creators. Like I want to stream this, right? I get a new set, I want to stream it. I got a new game, maybe I should stream it. And I would remind all of you who are listening who do this sort of thing, try to find something for yourself. I don't know how you feel about that, AZ, but like I definitely would argue that not everything needs to be content.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree
Yeah.
with you. There's in terms of, like we talked about the Gundams, right? The
Yeah.
Plus Sundays, and that I kind of incorporate in.
Mm,
I've picked up a few sets, and there's actually a set that I'm working on that I'm not streaming.
good. Yeah.
It's the when we were talking about the holes, that like the holes in your
Schedule.
schedule and
Mm.
stuff like that. Um, Sometimes I'll be here in my now workroom, yes, or office,
Yeah.
and I'll be working on that Gundam set, just like you said, just for you, just
Just for
kind of
you.
like a moment of break from everything,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a nice mental reset of um from everything, and it brings back your um because I don't know if anybody has felt it too, but sometimes you feel kind of burnt out on doing
Yeah.
what you deemed as a hobby for, or still is, but you're just kind of doing it just for just on stream, right? You don't get to enjoy that hobby per
Yeah.
se anymore as a mental break,
Definitely.
right? Or what you intended it to do,
Mm.
or what you initially got it for. So
Mm.
it's nice to have like a little, like you mentioned, just a little something to do for you off stream,
Yeah.
right? That's separate from whatever you're doing content wise, and just find the joy in that.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we touched on that.
And that's the thing too. Everybody's mentioning about Destiny. It's like
Yeah.
like what some of the like prophets said. You notice a clear difference in terms of playing Destiny,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of streaming Destiny.
Yeah. Because the act of streaming Destiny or streaming a Lego set or some Gunpla
Hmm.
is very much different.
And I'm not saying that I'm not enjoying
Yeah. Yeah.
building or playing something during the stream.
Of
You have
course.
that enjoyment in terms of interacting with chat and in sharing that,
Mm-hmm.
but in terms of um, like a break for you and for you yourself, just
Mm-hmm.
for you, like you said, right? It's nice to have something just for you.
Yeah. I think that's something everyone could, I think, stand to process a little bit, right? Like, because and I fully admit it. Like I've said, I feel like even I have gotten to that point where I'm like, should I stream this thing? Like I'll get a new game or I'll get a new set, and then I'm like, no, this one's gonna be for me. This one's gonna be because I have some friends with eagle eyes, right, who like pay attention to what I'm doing
Hmm.
with my online activity. Because I'm not trying to hide it, but like they'll see it on Discord or they'll see it, or I'll make a post about something on social media that I obviously did not stream. They're like, "Yo, how's that new game?" I'm like, "Oh, it's good." And I know
You're
they
like,
want
what
to.
game were you talking about?
Yeah, I know they want to ask like, why aren't you streaming it? Because I'd love to watch you stream it. I had someone say that to me once, like, well, multiple times, but I had someone say that to me just last week about a new
Mhm.
game that came out. I was like, oh yeah, it's a cool game. I played a little bit, and they're like, what? And you're not streaming it? I'm like, nope, that's for me. Like, I'm gonna play it. But yeah, I
And
just think,
you've seen some of the um, quote unquote bigger streamers do that too.
mm-hmm,
Like for example, Tim the Tap Man,
mm-hmm,
those of you who are not aware of Tim the Tatman started with WoW. World of Warcraft was something that he enjoyed when he was, back in junior high with his friends and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when Classic came out, he thought about integrating that to his streams,
Yeah.
right? And he did, but then it came to a point to where basically that's what we were talking about in terms of he wanted WoW to be an experience just for kind of like a decompression or like a
Yeah.
relaxing break for him.
Yeah.
So he stopped streaming it and just focused on whatever he would usually stream
Yeah.
live and just using WoW offline, kind of like for an enjoyment for himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think everyone should still like as much time as you put into content streaming, you should still. I mean, I think I need to make a video or like a stream about this one day in terms of like how to divide that time out in terms of what's
Hmm.
important. But I digress. The short version of it is that, especially as a content creator, save some stuff for yourself, right? Like keep something, and it can be the smallest thing or just something huge that you just, maybe you just get like a little set of Lego, talking to all the Lego creators out there, like you get a little set of Lego that you really want to do, just do it. Just do it without turning on the stream, you know? Or it could be Destiny, Destiny
Hmm.
2, since that just came out with a big, content drop. Like,
A
play
big
some,
expansion, yeah.
a big expansion, play Destiny off stream. So, excellent stuff. There's a question Prophet DNA asked a little while ago that I want
Oh.
to touch on, and he says, "This is for you. Being an introvert, Az, what is some advice you would give someone on how to step out of what you would consider your safe space?"
Hmm. That's like a kind of like a loaded question, but it kind of it kind of goes into where you don't want to. I think Zach mentioned it on in here during the last stream too, to where you want to get out of your safe space, but you don't want to be someone you're not, right?
Right.
You want to you want to stay true to yourself,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, I'm to be honest, I'm a introvert too. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is you brought that up. I was actually organizing my my files,
Mm.
like past VODs and stuff like that, and watching your old videos,
Yeah.
and watching my old videos, how that part of you where you're like, huh, you're kind of almost like whispering to whispering to the mic and not really knowing what to do.
Yeah.
But I guess in terms of uh coming out of your shell, it's just it's weird just saying just have fun with it. But I mean, I've seen Prophet kind of interact with chat.
Yeah.
It's just going with the flow with chat, and but then going through it, but staying with just just staying as yourself,
Right.
not trying to be someone else.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important to stay genuine and sincere. You know what I mean? Like with everything, especially the longer you spend streaming, I think you become more comfortable with engaging your chat. But
Mhm.
there's always that initial anxiety or worry that you're not talking enough or you're not being entertaining or fun, and for some people, myself included, I still question whether or not that's a thing, like if I'm being entertaining enough or funny enough or whatever. But the thing I like you said, is still being yourself, right? Like you can't you can step out of your comfort zone or your safe, your safe place, as Prophet says, but I think like you just pointed out, it's a matter of staying true to yourself. And I think that is what really garners the best relationship with those who are watching. Because, even though it's not face to face, I would like to think, because I feel this way when I watch streams, that those who are watching you can still kind of tell if you're not having fun or if you're not kind of really being yourself or you're uncomfortable streaming, which there's a difference between being uncomfortable streaming because you're new to it and being
Mhm.
uncomfortable streaming because you're either pretending to have fun when you're not, or you're doing something that you don't enjoy or acting a way that isn't aligned with who you are as a person.
Yep,
So,
I
yeah,
agree.
that
And
was,
it's not like, it's not a it's not an overnight thing, anything like that. I mean, um, you just gotta just keep working at it in terms of, I know it's easier, it's easier to say now, but in
mm-hmm.
terms of learning how to, um, well, one thing was turning the viewer count off, because
Yeah.
if you keep looking at that number while you're streaming,
Mm.
and I've been there, especially when I was starting, to where you're just looking at that number and you're like, why should I talk?
Yeah.
There's nobody there,
There's no one there.
right? And then that's when you learn and, look at the other advice out there, to where uh, you stream as if somebody's gonna
Mm.
watch this later.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it kind of helped me in terms of, okay, getting into that comfortability about talking to yourself, and um
Yeah.
and getting discussions going that way. Even as simple as starting to where I'm gonna put this piece, like saying that I'm gonna put this piece on this piece,
Mm.
and look at what happened,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now we're gonna do this. So it's almost like you're making a tutorial video or a presentation to somebody else that
Right.
will watch it later when you're
Yeah.
not live.
Yeah.
And then hopefully some of those people who've seen it then come back and actually
Yeah.
see you do it live.
Yeah. You treat it like a VOD without looking
Mhm.
at your view count, and ideally, you're building up that confidence of being able to navigate a stream that may not have people talking to you at the time. I've gotten into discussions with other creators about what what do I say if I get like the age old conundrum of, well, I get my energy from chat, but if no one's chatting, how do I have my energy and talk? And it's like, well, right, it starts with you,
Mhm.
and it depending on what it is you're streaming, depending on the kind of person that you are, there has to be something, right? There, like, it could be, my one of my hallmarks is I tell silly stories, right? About all
Mhm.
the awkward social interactions that I have, because apparently I have a lot of those. But I tell those stories often, and if you find me, there's two reasons why that happens in my stream. Either something comes up that makes me think of that memory,
Mhm.
or nothing's happening in chat and I have one in my back pocket ready to pull out so I can
Mhm.
get people in chat to maybe speak up. But I think that's very valuable, and I think you're very wise to point out that you need to treat it like a VOD, or you need to treat it like, if someone's not watching right now, maybe someone will see it later, right? They'll stumble upon the VOD while doing some searches or just browsing on Twitch,
Mhm.
and hiding
Or
the
if
view count.
or if you want to step it up further in terms of, or step it up further in terms of, now you're talking about content creation and expanding that outside of Twitch,
Right.
right? Maybe, okay, you're finding that, there's zero or not that many people watching it.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe format it to where you're streaming this and talking as if, like we were talking about, not just for the VOD, then upload it on YouTube.
Yeah.
to garner more eyes on it, and then
Yeah.
vice versa, point it back to the direction
Yeah.
of Twitch. I mean, that's something that I keep telling myself to do. Like, I haven't gotten a chance to do it,
Yeah,
but
it's
in terms
tough.
of that, you go into your other social media stuff, right?
It's
Instagram and TikTok. No, I don't do dances on TikTok, but I upload some of my stuff there. But then kind of circulate it and put it back, you know.
it's definitely tough to get started, and I think it requires some ideas or some concepts that
Mhm.
you're I'm not gonna lie, as someone I've done this for a long time in terms of just streaming, and I've had various experiments where I've done YouTube videos, whether they've been pre-scripted videos or ones that I come up with on the fly and I just hit record. I've done like a broad range of it. Even to some degree I've done the in the past I've done the what can I come up with live that could later be a YouTube video, right? And those who are listening to this or watching this at a later date who aren't here live, I mean, you're probably watching this as a VOD on Twitch or an upload on YouTube, and that's because I feel like this in and of itself is a good idea in terms of talking to people about their content and their communities and sharing those stories. But this idea specifically felt like it would only work if it was also available perpetually on a place like YouTube or on a podcast platform, right? Because I really want to showcase, your content and the content of everyone that has come on and will be on in the future. And I would take this particular story is or this use case as an example of maybe you all can find something that you can do as I bump my mic. Maybe you can find something that you can do that will lend itself to not just be good live content, but hopefully something that can be either edited or to some smaller degree cut down or even just put it up as it is on a platform like YouTube or anything like it where people can see it later.
Because I've been into those. I
Yeah.
mean, everybody's probably been into that YouTube rabbit hole
Oh
too,
yeah, all the
in
time.
terms of you find a particular person, right?
Mm,
That's happened to me with looking up Gundam stuff, and then you find somebody to where, oh, they did this. You'll watch their latest video, and then you're like, what have they done in the past?
yeah.
You kind of look up, have they done this kit? And then you kind of look further and further down.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's my thought lately in terms of streaming, in terms of the Twitch stuff, is just presenting it to where, like you said, somebody's eventually going to run into it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I feel like that's actually, and I've given this advice to a couple peers and fellow streamers before. I probably sound like a broken record to some of those people, but I've said, "Hey, you guys need to you need to come up with something that, if you struggle with people finding you and your content, you need to come up with something that can almost simultaneously, especially for those of us who have like busy lives, right?
Mhm.
Like it'd be good to have something for YouTube, but like the galaxy brain move is to have that idea ready to go, record it live while streaming, and then upload it later because you're almost double dipping in content, right? Because
Exactly.
yeah, you're doing it live. You have an audience to work with and react and chat with, and then if you're playing it right, like if you're doing it right, it's it's a YouTube video that can live on perpetually. And if if the topic is right, people will find it in searches or get recommended because maybe they listen to a lot of content creation podcasts or they see a lot of
Hmm.
YouTube videos talking about, like, I'm using this very show as an example, but like, I've done a couple things in recent weeks trying to figure out how to kind of crack that code, right? I did a tier list of all the Lego sets I've built since I started streaming. I don't know if you were there for that or shot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw
That
it.
That's a
Well, it's all
YouTube
part of it. Yeah.
video. Yeah, that's a YouTube
Yeah.
video actually waiting to get uploaded where I just talk about that. And it's like finding those little things that are just fun to.
And that's apparently the YouTube meta now, or currently, is having multiple channels, not just for one, not just one for you,
Yeah.
but having, um, like you've seen Jane have
Yeah.
it, but other streamers have actually done it too, to where, um, going back to Tim the Tatman again, he had his main channel, Tim the Tatman. Now you have more Tim the Tatman because he does his just chatting chat there. Then you
Yeah.
have even more Tim the Tatman, which are the funny clips or the
Yeah.
funny moments that happen within the stream.
Yeah.
So it's almost like what you were saying. It's like you know, you having multiple channels. So if you have more and more, you know, whether you just put crossing the streams there, or
Yeah.
your Twitch streams, and then you have more and more. You can do more and more builds,
Yeah.
right? You have your Lego stuff there. So it's kind of like separating your content, and basically you're making a larger footprint in YouTube
Yeah.
in terms of people finding you.
Exactly. Definitely. So you've been here. You've been on Twitch for a while. I mean, we've talked about that already, but
Mm-hmm.
what, in that time, and maybe you've already touched on this in this conversation, but what do you find to be the most challenging thing that you've encountered while streaming and making content?
The most challenging time in streaming.
Or like just things that you found to be really challenging as you've kind of started and have been on this journey thus far.
Oh, I mean, when you're just like when what everybody what everybody encounters when they're starting off
Right.
is that that thought in your head, and while doing it, to where there's nobody watching.
Mm,
It's like,
definitely.
why should I continue when there's nobody watching,
Yeah.
right? You know, when I just everybody says go press live, but there's nobody watching.
Yeah.
But then it comes to, you know, it that's when you learn. And you know, we talked about turning off the viewer count. The other thing is too, is not worrying about not worrying about who's not there,
Yes.
but worrying about who is
Who?
there or who is tuning in. You know, whether it be your your spouse, your daughter, your
Yeah.
one, you know, your one IRL friend that actually wants to check out your Twitch, or just
Yeah.
kind of throwing a comment in there.
Yeah.
You know, when you see that, it's that feeling, oh, somebody is watching, or somebody did take their time to kind of press on my stream
Yeah.
and clicked on it and watched. You know, and there is somebody, even though there's that one viewer there chatting, there's somebody talking to you. They're
Yeah.
taking their time to watch you and spend that time, that moment of time, to watch your content and talk to you. So
Yeah.
focus on that person, focus on those two persons. Then as the community grows, you
Yeah.
know, just having that mindset of there are people there who are supporting you. And you know, we also, Zach has mentioned it before, other people have mentioned it before, it's like the lurkers, right?
Yeah.
There are people lurking, you know, that they're the quote unquote backbone of Twitch,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Very true.
it's making the content for them, and thinking that there are people watching. So it took a while for me to learn that, I'll be honest, and that's the hardest thing to me to break.
Yeah.
And I've been there. And yeah, when if you're talking about the hardest thing, that's what I would say was the hardest. And then the current situation now would be just time,
Mm-hmm.
just time for um time, having the time to stream, or finding the time to
Yeah.
stream. You know,
It's hard,
and
right?
because that's the, you know, when you're talking about content, you want to have a consistent schedule.
Mm-hmm.
But then life, you know,
It's
for
yeah.
our situation where you're working a full-time job, you have a family, you know, it's finding the time to squeeze time in there to stream
Right.
and then be there for the people who have shown
Exactly.
support to you,
Mm-hmm.
and show up. Now you're kind of reciprocating it, right? In terms of they were there for you, they're there for you, showing up. Now you have to show up for them.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's all great perspective on, you know, when you're trying to, balance that against life and finding that priority and balance of wherever content creation fits in, and then also, that struggle, like you touched on, the struggle of how to deal with the fact that maybe 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 you're not, you don't have dozens or hundreds or what have you viewers, but not to worry about who's not there, but focus on those that are.
Mhm.
And so I get that. You and I have talked about this before, like, one on one, and it's definitely like, I still struggle with that, where it's very difficult to be like, man, like, you've heard this anecdote, I'm sure, on Twitter many times, when you get that chatter who comes in and goes, "Hey, chat's pretty dead,"
Oh yeah.
and
So
and you're like, "Yeah, I know." As the streamer.
yeah, I mean, you've seen it. Uh, sometimes I've had real life friends who trolled me with that before, and and
Right.
I've talked to them about it. It's like, hey, knowing you, yeah, that's funny, right? Knowing that IRL friend, that's funny. We
Mm-hmm.
can troll about that, but it, you talk to them about, hey, when I'm streaming, that's actually disheartening if
Yeah.
you do
Yeah.
that.
Please.
That's
Yeah.
you know and on the other hand, on the
Mm,
other side of that on the
mm.
other side of that is when you get a bunch of viewers and somebody says, oh wow, you're at so many viewers, oh look at this, you have
Uh
so
huh.
many people watching. I
Yeah.
would say people don't do that.
Yeah.
People
Please.
don't do that, because that's also on the other side disheartening, because then you're looking at it to where
Yeah.
you're basically telling that person that they haven't done enough to
Yeah.
be at that point.
Exactly.
So it's those two ends.
Yeah.
You have no one talking, and then you have this many viewers. Getting that
Yeah.
mention hurts.
It's rough. I've had that actually. I've had that recently happen. Like, I've had someone just come in and be like, "Yo, you got like 15, 14 people." I'm like, "That's cool."
Yeah.
And it's
No.
like, I didn't, I don't have my view count on, but it's
Hmm.
like, I already know there's like maybe a couple people chatting. So,
Hmm.
yeah, thank you for pointing that one out.
Yeah.
Zach M. Rutledge in chat's like, please, yeah. But
Thank you for letting
Has Stencil
That's
Travel
fancy.
says, thank you for letting me know how to troll you. But yeah, it's certainly, pointing out that the chat is dead, or pointing out that there's not many viewers,
Mhm.
is always tough. That's, I think, as an almost etiquette thing, I would recommend don't tell the streamer that unless they ask. Unless they're like, how many people are in here? Please tell me, right? But like,
Hmm.
if that's not information requested by the streamer, probably best to leave that out.
Yeah, probably not. Probably best not to mention it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think the streamer, view count on or off, knows. Like, we always kind of know, right? Because we're
Hmm.
staring, like, especially those of us who really are focused on it, in being engaged. We know. We know. And again, this goes back to me saying, if I tell a weird story and it doesn't seem almost relevant to conversation, it's probably because I know that there's no one in chat talking. But
But it's still, like I said, it's still nice to have those stories in your back pocket,
yeah,
right? For those situations like that. I've
yeah,
had it to where, I mean, Jurassic knows it. I'm a big Phoenix Suns fan,
yeah,
right? Zach knows it. Fred knows it,
yeah,
and back in the day, or even I've done it recently too, to where um, if my brain is just not, it's not, it's just going blank,
Yeah.
and to fill a dead spot, I'll have some kind of basketball game on. I'll
Yeah.
have some kind of Suns game on the background,
Right.
and then while you're doing your stream, looking at that, and if you see something there, or just looking at, not just not saying just a basketball game, or just have your favorite show on,
Yeah.
and take a hint from that, and
Yeah.
and just start talking about something that you just saw from
Yeah.
that show, and just start talking about it. You're feeling that quote unquote dead air
Mm.
in terms of um, having some kind of discussion flowing with yourself,
Mm.
and then getting it going from there. Because then all of a sudden, somebody will pop up and say, "The Warriors are the best,"
Yeah. There you
and you're
go.
like, somebody will pop
Inevitably.
up. Yep. And
Yeah.
somebody will say, "You know what? I haven't seen The Office. I haven't watched a single episode." That's
Mm-hmm.
me saying that. So, and then that can get discussions going again, or somebody will most likely want to pop in and say, here's my few thoughts about your team," or
Right.
something like that.
Right. Yeah, and let me let me underscore the importance of the detail that for me it's stories, right?
Hmm.
For me
Yeah.
it's awkward social interactions that I have. But for you, it's basketball. It's really whatever I think this kind of aligns with like who you are as a person and as a creator. What does that particular thing look like for you? Like where you have something ready to discuss, and as you do it more, you come to realize, or at least come to be comfortable with being able to do that on the fly.
Yep.
It's my hope because even though I pointed out, like I'll tell a story, it's my hope that you guys don't feel like I'm like wedging that into the stream, but like, and often, and another thing I like to do, and I know this is hard because I have a hard time doing it, is when I rewatch my VODs or look at my older streams just to kind of get an idea of how they, how I did as a streamer. And I will be like, yep, that's when chat was not moving, but I actually told a pretty good story there and no one
Hmm.
noticed that it was me trying to get chat talking. And then they started talking. So I think it just whatever that subject matter is really what it depends on who you are and what that looks like.
Hmm. And it kind of gives you an idea for, like you said, in terms of subject matter or what's going on at that time, kind of gives you an idea of what to do next stream, right? Or what to um, focus on next stream, right? There's or
Exactly.
just having that set now then now you're talking about planning again. You're going back to planning for
Yeah, actually,
your upstream to going to on stream,
yeah,
right?
we were talking about like that that back end work of getting your stream and your content going and managing your channel. If you were to tell someone who is still figuring this out and they say, AZ, I have only so much time to stream. What kind of advice would you give them in terms of like time spent preparing for stream or preparing content or working on content off stream versus actually being live?
I mean, in terms of that, in terms of just trying to make the best of what you have at that time, is it's it's almost like putting your ideas into place, instead of worrying about, because I've fallen into this um in the, this trap before, this hole, in terms of um like you're thinking about all these ideas, but then at the same time you're stressing yourself out with time, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this. I want to do this, but I don't have time. But when you do have time, it's like it's almost like you're preparing for that time, right? That moment that when you do have it,
Yeah.
you just have to make yourself work in terms of, hey, I have these 30 minutes, even if it's just writing notes down in terms of um, the idea that you have, just writing that 30 minutes, okay, writing the notes down in terms of, okay, I have this idea, how do I do this? What do I need?
Mm-hmm.
So then you with that 30 minutes, you didn't get to do anything really adding that to your stream, but technically you have because
Right.
you actually have it down in
Yeah.
your notes or whatever note thing you use to remind you of, to
Yeah.
where next time you have 2 hours
Yeah.
of free time, you actually get to work on it,
Yeah.
right? Or whatever you're focusing on the other side of stream or outside of stream in terms of whether it be your Instagram account, TikTok, or whatever, you know, planning, doing something for that. Um, Basically, just taking advantage of what time you have
Yeah.
and dedicating whatever something as simple as jotting notes down. I think
Yeah.
it's a big thing.
How do
And
you
I'm
how
not, and like I said, I'm no expert or anything like that, but that's how I feel in terms of approaching it behind the scenes.
how do you organize your notes? What do you do to like keep all that stuff straight?
I have a just a document folder in my
Yeah.
in my files in terms of literally how I would name it is just in a notepad,
Yeah.
like even just putting it as a that moment of time idea and just looking back at it to
Mm.
where like March stream ideas,
Yeah.
you know, with what happened last
Yeah.
week, stuff to fix for
Is it
obvious
just like
stuff
a
to fix.
notepad file?
Yeah,
Is
just a
that what this
notepad
that's
file. Yep.
great.
That's a that just I have a bunch of notepad files, and whatever I save it on, it's like whatever I want to remind myself of.
Mm.
It's like, hey, stuff to fix for this week. Literally, that's what it would say.
That's fantastic. I used to use a program called Notepad Plus Plus,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically Notepad but like with a lot more features.
Or
Like
like
you could have
coding.
tabbed. It's got tabs within
Mm-hmm.
it, so you could have multiple Notepad files open at once. It'll even save like an instance of a new document without necessarily you telling to save it. But I used to use that. I now use a program called Notion, which lets you organize things a bit more easily when it comes to stuff like content creation. But
I have
I'm
to
glad
take a
that you
look
use
at
Notepad.
that.
I'm
See,
glad you use Notepad at least. Notepad is like super. It's kind of like Microsoft Paint, where
yeah,
like
it's something.
it's better than nothing.
Yeah,
And
and like I said, sometimes you'll have that. You know, like I said, I mean, I'm pretty sure we've all had that moment to where you had an idea, but then you forget,
yeah,
right?
write down.
And to be honest, sometimes I'll be at work. It's like, oh, lurking on other streams, and you're like, oh, maybe I should incorporate something to
Mm,
this effect. Or if you saw somebody got clipped on something, you can
yeah,
literally reach for a notepad and or like
yeah,
put it on your iPhone and put it on for later.
yeah. When I'm not at my computer and I don't have like access, to it, like my phone is the next
Mhm.
thing. And actually, you can use some of these apps I talked about on the phone, and they can all connect together. So, but that said, I'm so glad that you at least use something, because I think that's something is super underestimated. But when you have a good idea or a thought, or you just need to organize the things that you want to do, like even Notepad, like use something, right? Let's see. Actually, April B's in chat and mentioned something that I had already written in my notes, but I'm so glad that April mentioned it.
I just saw
April B says, "I want to know how AZ feels about skyrocketing the screaming cowboy meme. which for those that are unfamiliar with it, would you do me the pleasure of like
Oh.
explaining what that whole thing is for those that don't know, and then answering the question. And if you're watching the video of this, like you'll see the emotes
The emotes.
flying through it. But yeah, what is this cowboy meme? Like, how did it come to be? What is it? And then
I
how do you feel
mean,
about it?
to be honest, the first time I saw it was in Local's channel. In terms of he has the screaming cowboy reading. Again, it's one of those things where you're like, okay, how can I incorporate that without now seeing all the cowboys in chat, without, you know, like
Yeah,
putting your own spin to it,
right,
basically.
right.
And that, if you've seen in the other stream, that's how that's how it's come about. Everybody's having their own version of it. And that's basically how it started. Was I saw it on in local stream, and as you mentioned earlier, I've been doing a lot of the snap filters or snap cam program, and found that there's this literally the screaming cowboy. That's what it's the same thing from the video. They have the screaming cowboy filter, which puts the, if you all haven't seen the music video, it puts the background of the mountainsides that kind of as a slideshow, and then it puts a cowboy hat on you, and that's what the redeem. That's what I incorporated as a redeem. But then somebody also redeemed a banana costume, which lives in my channel point rewards, and I happened to be wearing the banana costume when somebody redeemed that, and
Uh
I
huh.
didn't realize that. I mean, it's basically a green screen filter of sorts.
Right.
And it took the the banana costume and the cowboy,
Yeah.
and somebody, because of how my audio is routed on stream, the music doesn't go to the VOD.
Right. Right.
So people basically had the freedom to insert whatever music or whatever they want to
Oh,
insert in that clip, and all they hear is my voice. And one of the clips, I think it's on Amish's stream, you hear at the end of the clip to where I say, "Is there sound on that one?"
yeah.
And oh, and the other thing is too, when that first happened, I did not realize that I did not set up my audio correctly, to where um it was just silence. There was no, so
Oh,
live, at the VOD you already don't have music, but live there was no music.
yeah.
So there was just me making faces. And somebody clipped that, and that's what happened.
Right.
And then I found a picture of it, and I made an emote of it,
Yeah.
and now, as Goddess would say, it's the constipated cowboy.
Yeah. And so there's this emote, this animated emote of you that's been flying around Twitch now.
Uh-huh.
In this you can kind of tell like you're in this banana costume with a cowboy hat, and you got your mouth open like you're screaming,
It's great.
and then it's shaking violently, which just is this recipe for an incredible, like, even if you had zero context of what that
Mhm.
is,
And
uh th-
it almost like works for everything now, like for rage or
yeah.
for screaming at something. And just what God has said, streamborks make for the best memes, and that's what happens too. It's like, for those best moments of stream, it's the unplanned stuff, right? That the things that flow naturally, and
Mm.
finding stuff that are broken. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, Zach just said in chat, it's one of those emotes you can just hear.
yes, yeah.
And I just, how do you feel about it having it really caught on in the community? What are your thoughts on that?
I was honestly, I was surprised how much it just it just blew up.
Mm,
And probably the same feeling that Amish had with Jang's tight pants, or whatever,
the tight, yeah,
the dancing Amish emote.
yeah.
And and it just, how you can easily incorporate it with that screaming cowboy redeem. And it just,
I love it.
and when I saw the numbers of how many people used it in that 3-week span of, from when I included it last month.
Yeah.
I was just it just kind of it's that mind-boggling thing of, oh wow, this is how many times people use spamming this emote.
Yeah. I see
And
it everywhere, man. I see it in almost every channel that I watch.
yeah, and it's that feeling too. I don't know if if you feel the same way, but when you see your own emote
Yeah.
kind of getting used outside your channel,
Mm.
it's it's that, oh, that's awesome. that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's awesome feeling. And then of course just getting spam all over the place now.
Oh yeah. I always get excited when I'm lurking in a stream and ideally no one knows I'm there. And then I see people use something of mine, or like you see quite a few people, like it's going all on
Hmm.
along in chat. It's a good feeling, and it makes me feel like it was a good
And I
choice.
and I actually like that integration that Twitch did now, to where you can click on the emote
Yeah.
and it tells you who that emote belongs to.
Yeah.
And I've done that a few times in my chat, to where people would spam a particular emote, and I would just laugh. I was like, "That's a funny emote. Whose emote is that?"
Yeah.
And in turn, you can easily just click on that emote now, and directs you to that channel, and see what that channel is about.
It's definitely a great feature. I have found a lot more creators that way.
Hmm.
It kind of I mean, it tells me a little bit about them, you know?
Yeah,
When
like me through the
yeah.
streaming cow.
Yeah, I can't imagine what
Uh,
that's like for someone who doesn't know your channel and they see it pop up in chat.
mhm. And yeah, like what Goddess says, yeah, when it's getting spammed on other people's streams, in terms of what's going on at that time, at that moment,
Yeah.
and it exposes other people to your channel, or to
Mm.
whoever's channel, right? Or like the fart emotes that you see, and then
Uh, so, what's next for AZpinoy? What's anything going on in the future of the channel and the community?
um we do have a I would say it's a big milestone birthday
Mm.
coming up.
Right.
Um, but I am planning a birthday stream on
Excellent.
March 25th. That's not my actual birthday. My
Okay.
actual birthday is the week after, but it's on a weekday, and I can't quite do an extended stream during the weekday. So it's
Right.
easier. Again, talking about work stuff,
Yeah.
balancing family and all that stuff. It's easier for me to do a Friday stream extending to the weekend.
Mm.
So, going to be planning a March 25th birthday stream with um a new take. I think I've talked to you about it. A new take on building backwards. So, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
We've learned our lesson on the 100
Have
whatever
we
the bid
though? Have
was.
we learned a
I don't
lesson?
I
I'm
don't
not
know.
sure. I'm not as
Now
sure
that
if we've learned anything.
now that I have a new version of it, I don't think I've learned anything.
Yeah.
But but um but yeah, I mean, Zach was talking about putting a goal for a new graphics card. I mean, we're talking, one of the reasons I'm putting that as a goal is then just making the stream more stable and pushing it further, in
Mm.
terms of what
Yeah.
other goofy redeems, not just the snap filters, or not just a video popping up anymore. In terms of, there people don't realize there's a lot of things that you can do with
Oh
the
yeah.
recent RTX cards, in terms of in
Yeah.
OBS integration, and how you can break your stream further.
Yeah. So we can
Uh,
expect more borking
e-
of AZ's stream.
expect more borking, even though we upgrade the
So
equipment,
that's
basically.
do you have a time for that stream on the 25th?
I don't have a time
Okay.
yet. I'm still working on that, but it is gonna be uh,
So
probably
the
sometime in the morning. And then
okay.
um, if we somehow, I have a stretch uh, I have a stretch goal, in terms of the bit goal this month, and for some reason that gets met by that time, and then we'll just straight up just do a 24-hour stream
Nice.
from that. But basically, it's gonna be a minimum 12-hour stream.
Well, I look forward to it. I'll be there. I'll be there helping you break it and maybe seeing if we learned any lessons about going backwards. But we'll
Hashtag break it harder, like God has
break
said.
break it harder. So that
Uh,
is March 25th,
March 25th.
sometime
It's
in the
a
morning.
Friday. Yeah, sometime in the morning, and
All
I'll
right.
make announcements once
Yeah. So
we have the time.
keep an eye on AZ's socials and channel for that. As we near the close of this discussion and this wonderful conversation, who would you like to see go through this exact sort of thing in a future episode?
I think I will echo what everybody's been saying too. I mean, you've mentioned it in terms of who brought you in
Mm,
terms of the getting exposed to the brick building community, in terms of who seeing who was there before,
mm-hmm.
right? So it would be nice to get to hear their experiences in terms of Dan, April,
Mm,
Brick and Nick set to build,
mm,
just kind of seeing or kind of hearing what their experiences were and
right.
what they're seeing now in terms of how the community has grown, in terms of their perspective, in terms
Mm,
of how they're seeing it and how they see it going on moving forward, right? And then you say you have, like I said, Dan, April,
yeah.
Rick, and Nick set to
Yeah.
build, who's been there.
Yeah. Those are all great suggestions. There is a lot of love in the chat for April B, which I'm glad to say on March 12th. Well, April B will be our next guest. So, March
There you
12th,
go.
9 p.m. Pacific, you can join us here. April and I will be having a discussion just like this. And so, put that on your calendars, folks. We'll record it live, or you can catch it on YouTube.
Queen Bee.
The Queen Bee, April B herself. It's man, it's been I always have fun chatting with you, man. Whether it's on stream or off, I really appreciate it. I want to take this time to really thank you for helping introduce me to all these wonderful people that are out there, as well as taking the time to chat with me today. You've helped form and impact my career as a Lego Twitch streamer. So thank you very much, AZ. I don't get to tell you that enough, and I like to make you feel all the warm fuzzies when I have folks on here, because you've helped me in so many ways. So thank you for that, AZ. It's fantastic. I can't wait to see what you've got coming and what you're up to next. I guess with that, do you have any parting words for the folks here, for me, or anyone listening?
I mean, all I can say is it's I'm speechless with with those words that you just said. It's and for those of you who have watched me on stream, it's whenever I see the support from everybody like that, I'm I'm uh I'm always caught off guard, and it's hard for me to show um uh to show emotion, or what emotion to show. Basically, I bork like my stream, and and all I can say is I appreciate all the support that's been given, that's continued to be given, and not just on my stream, but all the support that you see
Hmm.
throughout the community,
Yeah.
right? You just see the love
Yeah.
from this community, and we've talked about it before. We've been hanging around Twitch for a long time,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and this has been said before. You don't see this type of love across one community
Yeah.
from one streamer to another, from one, you know, audience to another. I with my experience from Twitch, you don't see this. You don't see this. And it's awesome to see just the camaraderie between the streamers and the love that's being
Yeah.
shown throughout the community.
Well, thank you, Az. I think with that, that concludes this episode. But thank you again for being here.
Oh, thank you for thank you for having me. I should be thanking you for for having me here and just everything you've done too for the community.
Thank you. And you're welcome. I'm glad to do it. Until next time, we'll see you all later, and we'll see you next episode for April Beat.